Okay, this video is a worked model answer for the multiple choice from the January 2009 micro paper. Question 1. Choice is an important element of the basic economic problem because as soon as you see the word basic economic problem, you're thinking of wants being infinite, resources being scarce, and therefore you're having to make an opportunity cost. Your answer therefore is D, that limited resources have alternative uses. A misallocation of resources in number 2 for your monopoly question. As soon as you see the word monopoly, you need to think, what is a monopoly? A monopoly is where a large firm dominates the market, and as a result, if there's only one firm dominating, we have less competition, and the result of that is it pushes prices up. So your answer is B. Number 3, an economy is always productively efficient. For an economy to be productively efficient, any question which comes up on productively efficient, think of a PPF diagram. Productively efficient means you must be on the boundary. Therefore, which one of these answers is the correct answer? If you're on the boundary, you're looking for an answer A, B, C or D which tells you you're on the boundary. The answer is going to become D, because as soon as you're on the boundary, in order to have more of one good, that way you'd have to have less of another. So the fact that there's an opportunity cost arising implies you must be on the boundary. Question 4. Which one of the following would shift the supply curve to the left? Always draw a little diagram to go in your head. Supply curve going to the left. In your head, work out that that's a decrease in supply. So you're looking for something that's going to cause supply to go down. You can eliminate demand. You can eliminate elasticity of supply. That's got nothing to do with supply going down. So you're now left with two choices. The answer, of course, is going to be B, because if there's a decrease in subsidies, that means producers are getting less money, so they're going to be able to supply less. Number 5. Negative externalities exist in the market, giving rise to a misallocation of resources. Negative externalities, think of these might be demerit goods, which causes a negative spillover effect to society, and if left unchecked, we would have market failure. There would be too much of this product being used if there was no intervention from the government. Question 6, a buffer stock scheme. So the question's asking you a buffer stock scheme. Before you look at the answers, try and work out what a buffer stock scheme is. Remember, this is where prices are volatile and going up and down. The buffer stock scheme is the system which tries to fluctuate and stabilize those prices. How does it do this? It either buys or sells into the market to push price up or down to keep it stable. The answer in this question is going to be number A. In order to maintain a minimum price, think of our minimum prices. Minimum price is where the price is above. So if there's a minimum price, you need prices to go up. If prices are going up, if you're buying, it will create extra demand. Increase in demand pushes prices up. Okay, next few questions. Question 7. Demand curve for apples. Question asks us, what could have caused us from OP1 a decrease in price to OP2? So something needs to have happened to allow us to move down here. It can't be B, real incomes. A decrease in real incomes will decrease demand. That would make the whole demand curve shift. The answer is actually A in this question. Imagine you must have had a supply curve there to get you an equilibrium point. If there's a decrease in wages of apple pickers, that would have increased supply and allowed us to move to our new equilibrium, which is what the question is showing. Question 8. Income elasticity. When you have questions like this, you must make calculations. You'll often find questions which require you to manipulate the formula. It tells you income elasticity. There's been a 10% rise in real incomes, and it wants to know what's going to happen to the quantity demanded. Start with your formula. YED equals percentage change in quantity over percentage change in income. We already know two of these values. From the data it tells you there's been a 10% rise in incomes. So we know percentage change in Y is 10. Okay, we don't know what the percentage change in quantity is, that's an unknown Q. YED, however, we do know for these countries. A fall in demand is irrelevant. No change in demand is irrelevant. So you've got two options. Is there going to be a 40% increase in Italy, or is there going to be a 2% increase in demand for Spain? Look at the two values we've got. Substitute in Italy. YED is 1.4 equals Q over 10. Rearrange that. 1.4 times 10 equals Q. 1.4 times 10 is 14. So the answer is C. Okay, next question. Question 9. Which of the following situations will lead to an increase in equilibrium price? Where you have a question like this, I would suggest you just draw the diagrams. Demand is perfectly inelastic, vertical, and a firm's labour costs fall. So a firm's labour costs fall means supply would go up. That's lower in price. Therefore, that's the wrong answer because it would not increase price. Demand is perfectly elastic, so it's flat. Labour costs rise. If labour costs rise, that happens, but it doesn't affect price, so that's wrong. Supply is perfectly elastic, and the price of a substitute falls. Demand would decrease. That doesn't change price, so we're hoping that D is going to give us the right answer. So for D, demand is perfectly inelastic, so there's your supply curve. Labour costs rise, which means firms would supply less, so supply decreases. And yes, it has pushed up price, so the answer must be D. Number 10. Which one of the following is true? Positive and normative statements. Remember, a normative statement gives opinions. A positive statement is one which can be tested against the facts. This is just a definition which you must just learn. 11. You have to choose the correct answer by choosing the right diagram. Which one of the following diagrams shows there's excess capacity on the motorway? Okay, a motorway has fixed supply. It only allows, if you imagine here's your 3 lanes on the motorway, you can only have so many cars on that motorway. You can't suddenly say I'll have another 1 million cars on there. This has a fixed capacity, so we know supply must be fixed, which means it's perfectly inelastic, a set quantity. So we can eliminate straight away those two. This means the answer now is either C or D. Which one of these gives us excess capacity? Excess capacity means supply is more than demand. Let's have a look. Here's supply. Here's demand. Demand in this is outstripping, so it can't be this. Here's supply. This price. There's demand. There's excess supply here, so the answer is C. Question 12. The price mechanism helps to allocate resources. The answer is C. Why? Because the price of non-renewable resources will rise. Non-renewable means they're going to run out. Therefore, as those run out, prices goes up as they become more and more scarce. So this is the rationing function of price. Remember, allocating resources, and the price is testing you on RC. Allocates signals, incentives, and rations. So in this question is the R. 13. This is one of these facts you just must know. The cross elasticity between two complements. To help you, we think P.S. I love you. Positives give substitutes. So a negative must be complements. So the answer has to be A. 14. The total amount spent by the government if you're given a subsidy. Okay, if we have a subsidy, this is why supply has increased. We had an equilibrium here. Here's our new equilibrium. The subsidy is the vertical distance between the two. Here's the quantity. There's the equilibrium, but we're given a subsidy. So it's got to be that area there, which means the answer must be B. Okay, next question. Question 15. Which is the most appropriate form of government intervention for the problem identified? You just need to make sure you have the right mix and match combination. Introducing permits to limit positive externalities. A positive externality is positive for society, so we would not want to do anything which limited them, so that answer is wrong. The use of a buffer stock to stabilise. We do use a buffer stock to stabilise, but it's irrelevant if it's a public good. A public good is provided like street lighting by the governments. They don't need stabilisation. Imposing a maximum price for a merit good. A maximum price is where we don't want prices to go too high. A merit good is something which gives positive externalities and benefits to consumers upon consumption. So we want to encourage people to have a merit good. So having a maximum price on there would work. So C is the correct answer. Number 16. Which of the following is associated with a missing market? Our answer here is something which creates a negative externality. 17. We've got some information. MSB is greater than MPB. This means you must have positive externalities. So when consumers start buying this product, they are going to benefit because the social benefits is more than the private benefits. So when consumers purchase in consumption, we have positive externalities. Okay, next question. 18. Supply and demand goes for sugar. We've got a minimum price introduced in the market. What effect would this have on the market? So the minimum price means that no producer is allowed to sell for less than this. However, our equilibrium, where we currently are, here, with a P1 level of price, is more than the minimum. So that means nothing is going to change. That's okay. It's more than the minimum. Nothing will alter. So everything is going to stay at P and Q in this question. So the answer has to be A. Number 19. We have another calculation question. The airline is going to slash all its fares. Given a fare reduction of 35%, what would be the expected percentage change in demand if elasticity is -2? Start with our formula. They've given us percentages, so that means we must use the percentage formula. Percentage change in quantity demanded divided by percentage change in price. PED is -2. However, percentage change in quantity, we don't know, that's what they're asked. Over percentage change in price, there's a fair reduction of 35%, -35. So to get Q, it's minus, multiply these. This is divide, take it over. 2 lots of 35, 70%. The answer must be D. Number 20, electricity suppliers. Okay, the style of this question, it can be deduced from the data. When you answer this type of question, there might be lots of possible answers here which might be correct. However, the key thing you're focusing on is what can be concluded just using the data, nothing else. It tells us 10% of electricity must be bought. Green energy are paid more because there's scarcity. The only thing we know for sure, and the answer is going to be, is D. The people are paying higher prices because of the scarcity of green sources. That's the only thing we can conclude from that data set. 21. We have got an externality diagram. We have got the marginal social and private costs the same. This means there is no negative externalities. However, the MSB, look, is more than MPB. This means here we have a positive externality. If we leave it up to market forces, supply and demand, it ignores an externality, so we would have H. But what is the social optimum? We should be here, where the MSC and MSB meet. So we should be here, J. We're under. Not enough is being used. So there's a gap, HJ. So let's look for our correct answer. Our answer, having read through, must therefore be D. There's underconsumption, HJ. Last few questions, 22. An average cost curve for a firm. As we increase output from OH to OJ, what is this showing? Well, remember, why did average costs come down? It's because of economies of scale. What makes his average cost go back up is diseconomies of scale. So the answer must be C. 23. Okay, quite a complex question in 23. We have price, quantity, demand, quantity supplied. It tells you that the buffer stock scheme is operating and he wants a minimum price of 12. This would require, okay, from the table and the information here, I would draw a diagram. We know what the equilibrium is, look, because 4 and 4. So this means you must be here. Price is 9, 4 is bought. The question wants you to have a minimum price of 12. So look at 12. Here's 12. What's happening at 12? Demand must be 3. Supply must be 5. So to get that, we've got a gap. How much is the gap? 3 to 5 is 2. That needs to be bought up. Who's going to buy it? The buffer stock. So the answer is D. Last two questions, 24. This question I'm sure you will recognize and have seen a lot. Remember, all points are obtainable apart from Z. That is not obtainable and cannot be produced, but you can consume there. So you can have all these other points. Of course, you wouldn't want to be at Y because that's inefficient. Therefore, your answer must be C. Final question, number 25. Labour productivity. One reason why specialisation raises productivity. Our answer in this question is D. Let's look through the answers possible. Specialisation shifts the PPF to the left. Specialisation would actually shift it to the right because you'd be more productive. Labour replaces capital. Nowhere in the question does it tell us that labour is replacing capital. Specialisation requires an economy. Specialisation would hopefully push an economy onto its boundary, but it doesn't require it to happen. The answer is, if you know workers are specialising in particular jobs, you can then give them the specialist equipment to go with those jobs.